Welcome, everyone. Well, here we are, folks. Whoa. What's going on here? Yes. Let me put that proper thing up there. Sorry about that. Caught a little off guard there. Thanks, of course, as always, to the great Stone Loki for that amazing intro outro that he made for me for my Monday night thingy there. I was busy kind of putting the word out there. Running. Whoops. Yep, sorry about that little feedback there. I was a little bit busy before coming on here. I was just on with the great Paulie of the great Latino Slant channel, my good buddy's channel, and talking about some breaking news about this going on with the casting of Blue Beetle. That's something of importance, definitely to Paulie and stuff like that. The casting of the Jaime Riaz Blue Beetle, and so he just ended up that he did a little impromptu short show on there with myself and the great Tom of Midnight's Edge, and so I really appreciate that. I appreciate that. Shout it out to Paulie there. And welcome everyone. Welcome for being here. I was just kind of sorry about that. I was putting the word out again, and so I didn't have a lot of time to do stuff here, so I apologize there. So let me just on live now. That should suffice. All right, sorry about that, everybody. Welcome. What a bunch of great friends are here tonight, as always. So can't wait to get started tonight, because now, of course, it's time for Jack Kirby month here on all of Clobberin Times, and tonight, of course, Monday night Mark C. Comics Talk. So, I'm just all hail the great Mark C. and all hail to the King of Comics. And we're going to do various types of aspects of Kirby, like I always do. Before we get started, I'll say some hellos, but I'll just say tonight we will be, well, I'll tell you about it when we get started. Let's do some show notes and things like that. How about that? And then we'll get started and we'll do it proper. The great Mark D with a C. Dude, are you home, buddy? It's good to see you there, man. I hope you're home. Hope you had a good trip. J-Man. Now, J-Man, word for you, dude, if you're still there, we can set up a time whenever is good for you. This is Jack Kirby month on my comic show, but I have a show that I do on Wednesday nights. It's basically Wild Card Wednesday. Or if there's another time, or, however you want to do it, to talk about the film Dread. I have now rewatched it for the first time since the only time I watched it in 2012, because I promised, because I thought, we got to chatting back and forth a little bit there, and it would be a fun idea for the two of us to discuss that film. And of course, when at your leisure, whenever you are able to do so, let's do so. But just let me know when will be good for you. And my chat's wound back yet, so I can't see if you're answering, but I'll get to it. I just want to say some hellos. So great to see you, Jay Man. I hope you're doing well, brother. The great D Bud Martin. Bud, all right. Good to see you, man. Always a pleasure. My buddy, Pat S. What's up, brother? Mr. Angel, hello there. Good to see you. Thank you for popping in. Zax, buddy. All right. Zax, good to see you. JPRPH1. Hello. Hey, Stuart Mitchell, welcome. The great Chris Persia, what's up, buddy? Always a pleasure, Mr. Great Old Master that is of Canadian Wrench. Let's see who else is here. Back in your natural time zone, Mark. Good, cool deal. You're a Muslim uncle. What's up, man? Your Muslim uncle, I'm surprised Paulie did one. I guess he didn't have time, and I didn't have time either. But I did hear something about the Namor or the Namora casting, only because you mentioned it. Well, we talked about the Namor. You wrote Namor there. I don't know if you meant Namora. I know we're supposed to say Namor when my buddy Steve Mitchum is around. But the Namora casting was today. Namor was a couple of months back, and we did do a show on that on Latino Slant. Let's see. What's up? Why Jack Kirby? That's what. I'll talk a little bit about that, Chris, first, for sure. One other show note before we get running. Again, we're finally getting there, folks. Wednesday night, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do yet. It could be anything. It's Wild Card Wednesday. I don't think there will be a Global Geek Gang Thursday. But in addition to, of course, Saturday Night Star Trek, we have Sunday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, in less than a week. Our Fantastic Four, issue number 1, 60th anniversary celebration. And I will gather a gang of global geeks for that one. And so I'm looking forward to that, and I hope you will be able to join us. Now, every year, for as long as I can remember anyway, I've made well, Pat S, I don't know. We might do it. We'll see what happens. I'm up in the air whether it will happen this week. But the Global Geek Gang will be here Sunday. Next Sunday, one way or the other. So every year, just about as long as I can remember, August, of course, is not only I share a birth month with two of the greatest creators in all of geekdom history. That's, of course, the great Jack Kirby and the great Gene Roddenberry. So it is the birth month of Jack King Kirby, born August 28th, 1917, Jakob Kurtzberg. Born in Hell's Kitchen, I guess they say, or somewhere thereabouts. Would later, he grew up being an avid reader of fiction, of fantasy types, pulps, things like that. I appreciate that, Pat, brother. Pat, I appreciate you, man. Hey, Stig Kenobi, how you doing there? Good to see you. Always it's an honor to see you pop into my chat. How's it going, man? Good to see you there. And so Jack, one of his first jobs, and this is not about Jack's life, by the way. Oh, J-Man, you too, like myself, born in the same month as Jack Kirby. Cool, man. It's cool to be born in the same month as Jack Kirby and Gene Roddenberry. There you go. Because we Augusters don't get a lot of love, but hey, we got Jack, so to speak. One of the Kirby's earliest jobs, and this is not about Kirby's life story. I've done enough of that. Every year I do Jack Kirby month. This is going to be a little bit different, but tonight we're going to talk about the creations of Jack Kirby, to give a little bit of perspective of just how much he has created. Everyone sees his art. Some like it, some don't. One of his first jobs was working for the Fleischer Studios as a cell artist, drawing for the old Fleischer Popeye cartoons. The young Jakob Kurtzberg, and later when he started working in comics, he had a couple of different types of names. He used a couple of names, but he settled on Jack Kirby, and that's of course the name we all know him by. The name he revolutionized comics on. Wow! Hey, Stig Kenobi, May 12th. There you go. Wow, Kyle Reese. That's a good one there. Nice. I like it. So people just think of some of these comic book artists as just that, artists. And that's why I called this tonight's show $1 Billion King. He's rightfully called the King of Comics, and he was dubbed that back in the 60s. Before what he did for the Marvel Renaissance, transforming them from Atlas to Marvel in the early 60s, Kirby had already changed the art form a couple of times. Over his, I guess you could say about maybe 40 some odd year career, 40 plus, whatever it was in comics, he changed comics. In other words, he actually changed the industry 2 or 3 times when they needed, lifeblood pumped into them and to be revived. He, and of course, obviously, he was a very humble man, even though, yes, he was a war hero. And by the way, I would recommend anyone who wants to know about Jack Kirby's war experiences. I think it's still on there. Kirby at War, a great documentary about what he did in World War II and how his war experiences, which were harrowing to say the least, like most war experiences, I suppose, how it shaped his art. But a lot of people just think of him as an artist, and they just think, oh, Joe Simon or most notably Stan Lee wrote everything, and Jack just sat there. No, I'm not gonna. By the way, I'm not gonna. With respect, even though Jack had really hard feelings about it, I'm not gonna just go into my Stan Lee bashing thing. Even though I have a lot of problems with Stan Lee, with the things he did to his co-creators. I'm not gonna do that here because this is about celebrating Jack. Stephen Thompson, hello there. Good to see you, my friend. Those Kirby versus Lee arguments are good to have, and I firmly admit I'm on the Kirby side of that, but that's just a no-win argument, really. We can't win it because I wasn't there. I can only go by the things. I've been studying the Kirby versus Lee credit debate since the early 80s. I'm no comic book historian, never claimed to be one. I just love comic book history. It's one of my favorite things. And, yeah, it's pretty dopey, I know, but I love it. But the thing is, most people just think of, Jack Kirby and others like Ditko and others as simply artists, people who drew things. Jack was a creator, in many cases a co-creator. Phantom Outsider, what's up, buddy? I unlike some of the guys that kind of did him wrong, I believe that you should, definitely, credit should be, properly attributed. And when Kirby and Lee devised the Marvel method, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Marvel method. I don't want to get too off into the weeds with that. It changed the way things were done in comics, certainly at Marvel. But again, reason I call this $1 billion king, because the King of Comics, his creations and co-creations have generated, and it's billions upon billions of dollars for a lot of people, largely, of course, the various companies over the years that owned Marvel Comics, including Disney that owns it now, and there were a few. Marvel changed hands a bunch of times, and of course, a good bit for nowhere near as much, mind you, but a good bit for another company that was, of course, once called National Periodical Publications, aka DC Comics, owned by Warner and all this. Well, and all, in other words, he's made a good bit of money for both of those. His creations have. He's seen only a fraction of it, and of course, none of it when he was alive. His family finally, it took until about 2013, as much as I despise Disney, at least somehow, some way, and that's a long, convoluted story. I could probably direct you to where you want to go if you want to read about it. The Kirby family actually gets some money now. Is it proportionate to what he did? Not even close. But his creations have netted billions of dollars. Just not for him, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'm going to do shows this month in the Kirby month where we talk about his art and his, things like that. But tonight I'm going to talk about his creations and co-creations. Because, and what I'll do, I'm not the biggest fan of Wiki, but I made sure I checked this out, and it's fairly accurate from what I've seen on this one. Project Storytime, what's up, buddy? But I'm going to do a little run just to give you, and for anyone who may not be familiar, a slight idea, just to give you a little taste of how many characters Jack Kirby has created and or co-created by using this list. First of all, how many people on Wiki or anywhere else have a list? And I made sure these are all legit, because I know Wiki can be questionable. How many? Listen. Category: characters created by Jack Kirby. Now, of course, I'm adding the term co-created in some cases, of course. My point being, anybody else in on this many creations? And I'm going to go A through Z. It'll take a second, but I want to do that just to give you an example of how much this man did. And then, obviously, he drew these characters when he helped create them. But I believe on the ones that he co-created, he did the majority of the heavy lifting. Most of the creating of the tone of the character, the concept of the character, absolutely the look of the character. That's obvious. He was the artist. The origin, the backstory of the character. He did most of the plotting of their stories. I think obviously when he worked with his partner Joe Simon before he teamed up with Kirby, Joe was the writer and something of an artist of his own. So I think Joe, with the ones he's done with Joe Simon, it was definitely closer to a 50-50. Both were creative individuals. With Stan, and occasionally with Stan and Larry Lieber and some other types of guys when they were getting along, I think most of it's Kirby. That's just an opinion based on lots and lots of research done, and just personal research. I should not be allowed to use the word research. I apologize. Just personal study. I shouldn't even use that. Reading things he said, things his co-creators have said, and since really being into this since about 1983 or 4, really being heavily into researching so much of Kirby's history and the things he's done and everything. But still, I tell you up front that a lot of it is opinion, and sometimes it's who you decide to believe. J-Man says, I think the Marvel method seems to put a lot more emphasis on the artist. The artist ends up with a lot of control over the story and pacing. The artist does most of the work, but then the problem with the Marvel method was, J-Man, is then he would bring it into Stan, and Stan would be able to have, after a 5, 10, 20-minute conversation on the phone, they would bring these pages or send these pages into Stan, whatever the case may be, and he would put dialogue in it and stuff like that. So, yeah, if we have a conversation, if I say, hey there, Jack, how about this month we'll have Dr. Doom invade the Baxter building and kidnap Sue and as a little aside, we'll have the Mad Thinker come in with him, whatever the plot. They come in when they talk here and there for a little while, and Jack goes off and draws 17, 18 pages, 20 pages, whatever it was at the time, 20-something pages. And Jack draws it all out. But Stan wrote the credit boxes. When you write the credit boxes and you're the boss and you get to write the credit boxes, and again, I'm not saying anything I didn't say about Stan when he was alive, so it's not like attacking a dead man. I've been saying this for years. But I believe that the auteur theory that Arlen Schumer, jackass though he is, came up with is fair enough. Like, look, since none of us were really there, and they both have said certain things, perhaps believe what you want, but kind of just go ahead and call it a 50-50 deal, even though the truth may not be necessarily there. That's kind of all you can do sometimes. So, and you can just choose who you believe. I don't know what else you can do, but other than choose which, if you look into it, of course, which of the two that you believe. So, for me, it's Jack. And I can refer you to what I think is a phenomenal book about this topic in terms of who did what Stan or Jack, or for that matter, Stan or Steve Ditko. And I will pull this up here. First, let's look at the cover of the first significant character that Jack co-created with Joe Simon. One of the most famous covers of all time, right there. I mean, yeah. I'd also direct you to a documentary that you can find in a lot of places. It's a Kirby documentary that was home on. I'll have to find the name of it, where Barry Winchell-Smith flat out says that he believes Jack did most of it. Now, this book here, Kirby Lee, Stuff Said. That's true, by the way. Phantom Outsider? Stan did accidentally admit that after taking credit for creating the Silver Surfer in one of those Fireside books of the 70s, he did admit that Jack created the Silver Surfer. Stan's been all over the place. It's kind of another reason why I believe Jack. This book right here, if you have not read it, though, folks, Stuff Said. Kirby Lee, Stuff Said. This is actually, even though it's a trade paperback form, and now I have the new corrected version that you just did. Two Morrow's Publications is my favorite. I love them. I love Back Issue Magazine, it's called, which is about the Bronze Age. I love Alter Ego. And I've collected the Jack Kirby Collector from John Morrow's Two Morrow's Publications. Since it first came out, I have every issue of it still to this day. And since the 90s, I was ordering that from him directly. And this book here is considered an issue of the Jack Kirby Collector, which is a publication that's quarterly, which I never miss. And this book here is the most fair and balanced, if you want me to use that term. Excuse me, that book that I have ever read with regards to the conflict, let's say, of creator credit between not only Stan and Jack, but there's a lot of Stan and Steve Ditko in there as well. The complete genesis of the Marvel Universe in his creator's own words. And he took their own words, everything that they said in print about Marvel, in letters pages and everything else that they said, and he put his opinions in there. And he made sure, he said, look, this is speculation, this is an opinion, but this is what Jack said, this is what Stan said, this is what Steve said. And it's notated. This is a brilliant book. It's amazing. And there's a corrected version. Apparently there was something kind of messed up about one of the original versions of it. But I recommend this highly if you want to really get into the – I was about to show some pictures from it, but because I have it on a digital version of it as well as the real version of it, but I'm sure Team Morrow's probably wouldn't like me doing that, so I won't. But I do love their stuff, and I love what John Morrow does. He's fantastic. Let's see here. Mark D with the C says, did Jack at first not care about getting credit since he became vocal late in his career? Seems like Jack was always a showman. Like Lee was always a showman in public. Yeah, Lee was the showman, the hustler, the seller. He was Funky Flashman. No, Jack cared toward the end of his Fantastic Four run. That's why he was so upset. He started withholding some of his better ideas toward the end of his Fantastic Four and his Thor run in the late 60s. And he decided to go to DC where he thought he could own his stuff. It just so his DC kind of screwed him over as well. So Jack definitely cared. But what I'm going to do with this this little wiki list really quickly, I'm going to read the names of characters that Jack either created or co-created. It's a long list, but I'm going to do it quickly, only just to drive home a point of why he's the billion-dollar king. Because it is important to so many people who don't, there's so many people who just don't understand what this man did. In fact, I'll pick and choose. I won't even do all of them. I'll just, the ones of note that people know of. Absorbing Man, Annihilus, Ant-Man, Atlas, the DC version, Atuma, the Avengers, of course, the Mad Thinker's awesome android, Balder, although we all know, there's some of these Thor characters he took from mythology, but Bucky Barnes, Batroc the Leaper, Beast from the X-Men, of course. Betsy Ross, Big Barda, Black Bolt, Black Panther, Black Racer, Blastar, Blob, Boomerang, Boar. Boomerang was from one of those later Topps comics, I think. I don't know why I mentioned him. Boy Commandos, Brotherhood of Mutants. We got Bucky on there twice for some reason. Captain 3D. Captain America, I don't know if you've heard of him. Peggy Carter, Sharon Carter. The Celestials, Challengers of the Unknown, Circus of Crime. I'm just naming ones that people would have heard of. I won't even go through all these. Crazy Quilt. Crusader. I think they mean Crusader. The Crusaders, yes. Crystal, Cyclops. Danger Room, as in the X-Men, of course. Darkseid, Desaad, Destroyer Duck, although, co-created it was as a, well, never mind. If you don't, I'll just have to explain him later. Devil Dinosaur, Diablo, Dingbats of Danger Street, Doctor Doom, Dragon Man. And again, I'm skipping some because there's some more skip. Just ones that you would possibly know if you read Marvel or DC comics. Dum Dum Dugan, Morgan Edge, Egghead, the Marvel version, not Vincent Price. Ego, the Living Planet, the Enchantress. Enchanters 3, the Enchantress, of course. The Eternals. They may make a movie about that one. You never know. Etrigan, the Demon. Fandral. Some little group called the Fantastic Four. Whoever heard of them? Let's see here. Fighting American, Fin Fang Foom. Funky Flashman and the aforementioned Funky Flashman. Long story. He's he's credited as the Fly from Archie Comics. I think Joe Simon mostly did that one, but he worked on the character a little bit. So that's why I got to be cautious about this wiki stuff sometimes. Forager, For Bushman, Forever People, Jane Foster, Frightful Four, Nick Fury, I guess because of his last name. Some guy called Galactus. Who's that? Huh? Gargoyle. What if that's a different Gargoyle, not the one. Giant Man. Global Peace Agency. A little obscure, I know. Goliath. Gorgon from the Inhumans. Granny Goodness. Gray Gargoyle. Jean Grey. Groot. Guardian. The DC version. Herbie, that's right. He actually did create Herbie, even though it's... Well, never mind. Agatha Harkness, Hate Monger, Heimdall, again, taken from mythology, but and Gila, also taken from mythology, but he put him in the comic. Hercules, same deal. Hermes, same deal. High Evolutionary, High Father, Hijacker, Hogan. I'm not looking at chat right now, guys, because I'm reading this off, so if you say anything, I'll get with you, I promise. Hulk. Remember him? Human Torch, the second one, granted. Iceman, Icarus, Immortus, Impossible Man, Infinity Man, Inhumans, Intergang, Invisible Woman, Iron Man, It, the Living Colossus, Edwin Jarvis, Rick Jones, Juggernaut, Kazar, Kamandi, Kang the Conqueror, Karnak, Claw, Cobra, the DC villain, Kree, the Kree, Lashina, remember her? The Morgan Le Fay DC version, Lockjaw, the Marvel's Loki, Willie Lumpkin, Machine Man, Mad Thinker, Magneto, Man Beast, Mangog, Manhunter, the original Paul Kirkman, I believe. Mantis, Mastermind, Alicia Masters, Sky Masters of the Space Force. Sometimes I land on an obscure one and just say it anyway. Maximus, Medusa, Bentallo, Metron, Miracle Man, Mr. Miracle, MODOK, Mole Man, Molecule Man, Moon Boy, New Gods, Newsboy Legion, Mr. Miracle, Oberon, Odin, Olympians and the Marvel versions of them, Let me go to the next page. OMAC, one-man Army Corps. Orion. Let's see. Psycho Man, Puppet Master Hank Pym. Quasimodo's Quicksilver. Radioactive Man Ramatut. Rawhide Kid. Red Ghost. Red Skull. Reed Richards. Franklin Richards. Ringmaster. Ronan the Accuser. Betty Ross. Thunderbolt Ross. Sandman, the old second version of the old DC character from the Golden Age. Or actually, they did the revamp on the Wesley Dodge one. Sometimes these people aren't that clear. It's wiki, so you got to watch them. Scarlet Witch. But it's a good list nonetheless for the most part. Sentinel, Sentry. The Sentinels as in the... Yeah. Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. Sif, Silver Surfer. The Skrulls, Jasper Sitwell. Sleeper, yeah, that's for Inhumans. Sprite, for the Internal, one from the Internals. Steppenwolf, not the one that Snyder used. I don't know what the hell that was. Stranger. Baron Strucker, Super Adaptoid, Super Skrull, Supreme Intelligence. Surtur. T'Chaka. They went under Black Panther for the other one, but that, of course, is his pappy. Ben Grimm, the ever-loving blue-eyed thing. Ever hear of him? For the Marvel version. Toad. Trapster, previously known as Paste Pot Pete. Bolivar Trask, creator of the Sentinels. Triton. Dan Turpin, who he looked like, who was his spitting image, sort of. Two Gun Kid. Tyrannus. Uatu, also known as the Watcher. Ulick. Got him there twice. Vanisher. Vision, the Timely Comics version. I'm actually not sure about that one. I think he only worked on him, but it could be he may have had. I don't think he co-created him. Volstagg. Adam Warlock, but he was only known as him at the time. The Warriors 3. Wasp. Watcher, who was on there twice, really. Whirlwind, Wyatt Wingfoot. Wizard from Frightful 4. Wonder Man, love Simon Williams. Warren Worthington, the Angel. Wrecker. X-Men, Professor X, Zebu. Yancey Street Gang. Give me your Young Allies. I'm not sure about that one. Zabu from Khazar. You also go Khazar. Zarko. Baron Zemo, who's already been mentioned. Heinrich Zemo. Helmut Zemo. Zeus, the Marvel version. Arnim Zola. I think you get the point. David Rayburn, what's up? Good to see you, man. And I'm sorry about that, everyone, but I just wanted to read off the list that of characters that he either created or co-created, because he's the $1 billion king. These characters have generated so much. So much has been done. Oh, hello there. I've not seen you before here. Is it Gojatron? I hope I'm saying that right. As in Gojira Batron? Gojatron. I like that. Kirby was the absolute genius. Was an absolute genius, and probably the number one reason I became a comics fan in 1975. Well, that's a good reason, my friend. Kirby's king. Yeah. What's this here? Screen Rant Galactus Legends. I saw that figure. That's ridiculous. It's pretty expensive. That's not necessary there, but thank you, Marty. I'm backtracking a little bit, you guys. I had to take my eye off the screen so I wanted to read all that out for Kirby's sake. Because it is Kirby month here. So since we're talking about the creations of Kirby, I want to basically ask you guys, because remember, what is your favorite? Do you have? It's tough to pick one. I realize that. If I do like and I might do this month, like a list, a Kirby list of favorite Kirby creations, excluding other creations, just the Kirby ones. And I could make 20 or 30, but I might just do a top 10. What are your top 3 or 4? Go with 4 since this is also a Fantastic Four month. Your top 4 Kirby creations. What are your favorite? And yes, we have shows we're going to be doing. I'm going to do other shows this month about his art, of course. I wanted to focus on his creativity on this first one here because he wouldn't be so, he wouldn't have had the impact and the influence that he's had, and it's immeasurable. If Jack Kirby had just been an artist and just there are a lot of fantastic, wonderful artists whom, certainly because they were artists, they were in on some co-creations. But you don't really think of them as much as a creator of this character or that character. You just think that's an artist I love. I mean, I love Gil Kane. Gil Kane was in on creating Hal Jordan. And I love him. But I think of him as Gil Kane, the artist. And then when someone mentions Hal Jordan, who created him, I go, oh, yeah, wasn't it like, was it John Broome and Gil Kane or whatever, Julius Schwartz and a few people? But with the Kirby creation, even the ones that he co-created, for example, ones that he co-created with Joe Simon, like this guy right here. He co-created Captain America. This is his first gigantic creation, not his first creation probably, but this is the first big one he ever had. And then he brought him back into the Silver Age. More than billions, tens of billions. Yeah, it's astronomical how much. Probably incalculable, I would say, Phantom Outsider. He inspired so many people to do so many things. Kirby inspired people for other forms of creative works that had nothing to do with comic books. What other comic book artist did that? The Avengers, almost every Kirby character, hero in Marvel is a member. Yep, remember, only the Human Torch never joined so far. Good point. Yes. And by the way, Gorgatron, I'm glad you mentioned that because I should point out, and I didn't put any picture up of it, you mentioned his DC stuff, and you mentioned Commandy. Have any of you seen, everyone, there's a DC animated film that came out on Blu-ray a couple of months back about the Justice Society. It's kind of an Elseworlds thing. On that Blu-ray is a Commandy short cartoon. The DC Showcase short cartoons that they've been doing. They've done many of those before their main feature. And the Commandy short on there is pure Kirby wonderfulness. It was short, but I loved it. It was a love letter to Kirby. It was beautiful. Absolutely astonishing. And it was the best thing about that Blu-ray. I didn't even buy it. I borrowed it from Minimus. And then I watched the JSA thing, and it was okay if you call it an Elseworld story. It had a lot of stuff that I really wouldn't want that I would have problems with. If you think of it as an Elseworld story, it's all right, though. But what are you going to do? And it's funny that one of Kirby's creations that he did that was more on a satirical vein, with Joe Simon, was Fighting American. I don't know how many of you remember this. I remember, of course, I never was able to buy this comic. It was even before my time, 1954, predating, of course, his Marvel stuff. But they did a hardcover reprint of all of it, and I remember picking it up in the 90s, and I was so excited to get to read that. It was a fun comic. Some of you may remember that one. And because I was busy and out so long today, I didn't really load any other pictures, so we could just Google and look at a bunch of fun pictures, of course. J-Man says, Cyclops. He's my favorite X-Man, J-Man, by the way. Gene, Hulk, Thing, Surfer. Love him. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love the Commandy stuff on Batman Brave and the Bold. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, excellent. Like I said, I love that Commandy short, and of course, yes, the Commandy stuff on Batman the Brave and Bold was fantastic. I love that as well. The JSA cartoon, because I can look at it as an Elseworlds, is kind of okay. What really pissed me off if they were trying to say that was a normal universe, but what are you gonna do? But I guess I'll just, because I wasn't able to load all the pictures once. So I'll tell you what. Let's see. Kirby Creations. We'll go back to that Kirby Creations thing. That Kirby Creations and find pictures and look at a couple of them. I want to know your favorites. It would take forever to come up with all of them. So I guess we just kind of browse at some Kirby art here. And, let's just look at the guys we have here. The Thing is my all-time favorite character. There's no question about it. But I'm going to go from all these characters right here and pick my top 5. The Thing, of course. Oh, man. It's tough to pick them, dude. Well, Phantom Outsider, it's funny that you mentioned that. We're going to be doing something. I'm going to be doing something pretty soon involving Thundar with some friends. And Kirby, it's funny how Kirby did work with Ruby Spears to create Thundar, which was pretty much just Commandy. It was so much of it was Commandy. I love Thundar, by the way. Steve Gerber did all the writing and development on it, and so people say that Gerber kind of created it, but I'm like, he swiped it from Commandy. Thundar is just, he's not a kid, but other than that, it's Commandy. But just off of this one right here, it's going to be Ben. Then it's going to be Hulk. I love them both. Well, it's going to be Ben. It's going to be Reed. I'm just going with the 4. The FF are going to be my top 4, but then I got to put the Hulk up there. Nah, it's going to be Ben. It's going to be Cap. Then it's going to be Reed, Johnny, Sue, and I'll cheat and do more Hulk. Yeah, I had to do 6. I had to cheat. I forgot. I almost forgot Cap. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, Cap is on my list of all-time favorite characters that I did. Cap. Regardless of who created him, Cap was my number 4. So yeah. J-Man, I did the same. I just got that Thunder Blu-ray a couple months back, and I'm gonna be doing I can't say who, but I'm collaborating with some good friends pretty soon on a Thundar review video project type thing. So Thundar has a future here at Clobberin Times and other places. But let's just go with what I have pictured right here, since I didn't load a lot of pics. All right. Obviously, it's old news to say how much I love the Fantastic Four. It's old news to say how much I love Captain America. I love Hulk. Let's see here. Thing, Doom, Machine Man, and Pacepot Pete. There you go. Oh, my goodness. I mean, look at the obscure ones. Challengers of the Unknown. Never much of an X-Men guy, but I do love those X-Men, the originals. Commandy, Etrigan, of course, Iron Man, Nick Fury. It's tough to even put them in order, but I think I will do that. I think what I'll do is I'm going to do a top Kirby list. A favorite, my favorite. I'm going to do we'll do a show where I have 3 different 10 lists, 10 favorite Kirby characters, 10 favorite Kirby pages, maybe, and his covers. See, I love me a Kirby cover. That's 70s rock fan. What's up, buddy? So, yeah, Punk Waddle. Hey there. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in, my friend. Yeah, so I think basically well, yeah, I named I named them all off, Phantom, as you know. Masters of Evil. That's true. Kirby ripped off himself. Kirby ripped off. Well, a lot of creators rip off themselves sometimes. I mean, they rip off everyone else too, of course, but a lot of creators, rip themselves off. In that they repeat themselves, right? Well, Kirby, when he created the Fantastic Four, he went back and took the Challengers of the Unknown that he had created almost, not quite fairly close, not quite a decade, but many years before for DC National. And he gave them superpowers. He not only gave them superpowers, he gave them Plastic Man powers, the original Human Torch's powers, and I keep forgetting the name of the lady, Invisible Humans, Miss Scarlet or whatever, invisibility powers. But he gave turned one guy into a rock monster and made him a hero. That was just never unheard of, mostly for the most part. And that's why I love Ben Grimm so much, the monster hero. Iron Man was wasted in his 60s cartoon. Why do you need Iron Man to stop a guy from breaking into a wall safe at somebody's apartment? Well, it's been a while since I've watched those. But he fought villains and stuff too, I'm pretty sure there, Pat. I mean, yeah. Pretty sure he fought some villains there too, brother. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Sorry, having a bit of a technical. There we go. So basically, let me share this here. Bop, bop, bop. Man of action. How are you saying still? It's just that's dumb. Yeah, well, you're being dumb when you overreact to it, man in action. It's just a joke, just saying he stole from himself. It's called humor. We'll be okay, I promise. So that's dumb. Yeah, okay, thanks. It's a joke. He stole from himself. But creators do that. So whatever, dude. But nice to see you, man of action. And I like that avatar. Let me see that avatar here. Re. Wow, you can spell re. All right. I still like the avatar though. But yeah, it was just a joke there, bud. So we're good. Anyway. So, yeah, I was not able to. Oh, there we go. Oh, you got the lyrics. Mark D with a C. How dare you? And no, I won't sing it. If I had Mark D, I'll tell you what, dude. You could come on and I'll let you sing that. How about that? Yeah. What can you do? let me know, man. You can come on and you can sing that song. I don't know if everyone wants more. This is not karaoke night at Latino Slant now, though. I don't think Paulie would appreciate us doing karaoke night over here. But if we, no, we need to get him to do that, like sing superhero songs on his karaoke night. Yeah. Look, Waddle. Side note: they tried to sue John Fogerty when his solo album sounded too much like the songs he wrote and sang. Creedence Clearwater Revival, but back to comic book talk. Kirby stole all of his plays from Francis Bacon and all of his sonnets from Christopher Marlowe. Yeah, D-Bud, boy, you ain't kidding, man. We need Arwen to do the singing. Where is Arwen's not here tonight, unfortunately. Her voice was just incredible. If she were on here, I would want her to come on and sing that Iron Man song. Dadman Walking 55, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, bro. Yeah, man. Like I said a little bit earlier, I went through all of Kirby's list of tons of Kirby's creations. We're just talking about his creations and things like that. This is, of course, this entire month celebrating the birth month of the great Jack Kirby, the King of Comics, as I always do on this show. And but unfortunately, I've been out day, everything, so I was not able to load any of the things I wanted to load, the pics and all that stuff. So I'm short on a lot of pics, unfortunately. So. Just got the one right there. Just been a hectic day, been gone and everything, So, but it's good to see you, man. Let's see. I like that avatar, man of action. Looks like my old G.I. Joe. I'm sure it is a G.I. Joe. So I was going to play. I almost thought about playing this game with this thing, that putting a character up there that Kirby didn't create and see if anyone could guess what it was, but I left him off. Brightest Day, what's up, buddy? Have you seen Rob Liefeld's character named Kirby from his comic Prophet? He looked like a buff Kirby. I'm not a big fan of Liefeld, so I have not. I'm familiar with the comic, but I've never read it, never cracked one open, so I have not, J-Man. I remember that Matt Wagner did something similar in his Mage 2 series. Mage, I used to read the Mage comic from the 80s. And he had a character in there, a big burly dude named Kirby Hero. Oh my goodness. There you go, Chris. Doc, Bruce Banner, Beltenbang, Gamma Race, turned into the Hulk. Unglam Race. Reckon that I'm not going to do it. Don't worry, everyone. I'm going to spare you any singing. But if Arwen were here, I would get her to sing. That's what I'm going to do. How about everyone? We get Arwen one night to join me, and she sings those Marvel superheroes theme songs. Who's for that? She's an amazing singer. I don't know if she would do it. If she would do it. Oh, but it would be fun. Her voice is amazing, beautiful. Yeah. Hey, Brightest Day, I wouldn't bug her. But if she popped in, I would tease her about it. But I would have her on and let her do that, though. That would be funny. Oh, I'm talking about characters, though. Phantom. Not actually the art. But I tell you what, you can do that, Phantom. You can point out the one that wasn't drawn by Kirby. World War Hulk is awesome. I wasn't a big fan of that one, but a lot of people liked it. So yeah, I guess because my thing about World War Hulk, Man of Action, was I didn't like the premise that led up to it. In other words, what led up to Planet Hulk, when they basically, for the lack of a better term, turned all those great heroes pretty much into villains. What they did to Bruce Banner, I thought was terrible. And I think I bought maybe the first few of World War Hulk and didn't create it, but you liked it, huh? I got you. There's another one. Everybody's putting the lyrics to this song. Oh crap! Everybody's putting the lyrics. But he's not. Well, he was a character in a sense. Oh, I never had that record, Man of Action. Cool. Yeah, you're right about that. Stan Lee created Kirby. Stan Lee created creating things. I remember when I said, hey, how about I create a comic book artist? So I created Jack Kirby. And I said, I bet Jack can draw anything because I created him. Yeah. So, oh, don't make fun of Stan. I make fun of Stan all the time. Brightest day, you didn't ask her that. I tell her we're talking about her. Well, she deserves to be talked about because she's lovely and she did such a wonderful job singing on that on Polly's show the other night. We love Arwen. She's fantastic. Oh my goodness. Wow. So yeah. Oh crap. Punk Waddles, I think I have the Planet Hulk run coming in the mail soon. Just decided to go for it. There you go. Now, what I'm trying to put together, yeah, I didn't like what they did to Bruce Banner in that one, Man of Action, but that was just me. What I'm trying to put together is, of course, for the rest of the month. This is all Kirby month. Like I said, I wanted to do something where I talked about his creations a little bit. I've pretty much done so. I mean, there's so many. You can't just focus. I don't know where you began. I mean, we're going to do a little bit of that. But I'm trying to figure out what other type of topics I'm going to do as far as Kirby, because I've been doing this for so long, even though it was on the old show before I moved here a little over a year ago. So I can, go back to some of those. But there's this thing in my bag that I was mentioning earlier, the aforementioned Jack Kirby collector, which I collect. I have every issue of. There was a running segment in there called Kirby as a genre. Now, you let that sink in for a second. There's some great comic book artists throughout the course of history. That's why it's ridiculous just to call him an artist. He's a creator who created art, created characters, created stories and concepts, ideas. So he's a genre. In other words, because there's so much he's done, so much he's created. His work, his imagination is a genre unto himself. How can a person be a genre? Well, that's just the way it is because of everything he's done. That 70s. Let's see here. I was moving there. Oh man. Moving, eh, buddy? Oh, that's no fun. Jeez. Well, see, there's the thing there, Phantom Outsider. When I was talking at the outset of the show tonight, when I said when he sort of revolutionized the medium 3 different times. First, in the 40s, he really, you had, of course, superhero comics were starting to get really big. With Superman and Batman and some of the other characters, some of the other DC characters and some of the other, of course, the Fawcett characters and all these other characters, stuff like that. Well, Kirby was kind of in on that, and he brought in Captain America and did a lot of the stuff for Timely and things like that. And so it really, he kind of later kind of set the tone for a different style of comic book. And then when he came back from the war and superhero comics and horror comics and all these other comics were under siege, the business was hurting and all these companies were going out of business. Congressional hearings didn't help. The seduction of the innocent with stuff with Dr. Wortham didn't help. Well, he started. He helped popularize not only crime comics, which were getting in kind of a little bit of trouble. Hey, J-Man, take it easy, buddy. Yeah, DM me about Dread. I'll announce that again in a second. He introduced Western comics, monster comics, romance comics. Oh yeah, I loved. I remember Captain Victory and Silver Star. That was toward the end of his career, really. In fact, you mentioned his romance comics, D-Bud. Tomorrow's, which I always, which I talk about a lot because I love Tomorrow's publications. This month he's got a new book out coming out, Dingbats in Love or whatever. It has unpublished romance stories by Kirby from DC from the 70s. And even though I don't really care much about romance stories, it's Kirby, unpublished Kirby stuff. So it's half off. It's half price. I'll probably snag it just to have it, just to have some unpublished Kirby. Oh, geez. He was fast too, of course. Yes, what J-Man is referring to, everyone, is the movie Dread, which I dreaded having to watch again. It's I'm a big Judge Dredd fan, the character from the comics, of course. And unlike a lot of people, I've hated the movie Dread since I saw it in the theater back in 2012. Never watched it again. And then for many years, I've had to hear from everyone how it's the greatest movie ever made. Everyone loves it. It's so wonderful. It's so great. It's so fantastic. Great. So many people love it. It's almost developed a complex. So I decided, you know what? My opinions changed on movies and comics before. After giving them long enough, going back to them, giving them a shot, seeing if I can give them, maybe have a fresh new perspective on them. Well, I like them, for example, a movie. It's rarely happened where I really liked a movie and then didn't like it as much later. I don't know if that's ever happened. But there have been times when I did not like or really even disliked a film and then liked it better later. So I decided to watch Dread again. I don't have it, so I had to go borrow it from a friend of mine on Blu-ray. And I've watched it again yesterday. And J-Man and I will be doing a show soon where we talk about that. We talk about that film in detail. Now, Man of Action, we were just talking earlier about Thundar and Commandy. Thundar pretty much is Commandy, as we said earlier. When Ruby Spears hired Jack Kirby to work on Thundar and many other projects, they basically hired him because they knew how fertile in imagination. They knew how great a creator he was. So they hired Kirby to create a bunch of things for them. In addition, it was Thundar, of course. They had Steve Gerber doing most of the writing and developing on it, but really Gerber was just ripping off Commandy. And by the way, that Commandy short, I don't know if you were here earlier, Man of Action, but the Commandy short cartoon on the new Justice Society Blu-ray is a great, wonderful love letter to Kirby. If you've not seen that, I recommend it. Well, Chris Persia, I didn't say whether I liked it better or not. That's a secret. Oh yeah, Steel was terrible. I didn't say that my opinions improved, or stayed the same, or got worse. Chris, it's a secret, buddy. But I always liked Urban as Dread, though. I've said that I thought he was great as Dread. But if you look right here, talk about creating things. Kirby created a bunch of stuff for Ruby Spears. All these cartoons that never got made. I still have these cards. Chris, you're right, man. Steve Mitchell, what's up, bud? I still have these cards that came out with Kirby, basically the Ruby Spears cards of all the different things he created for Ruby Spears. Oh, my goodness. Does anyone remember a movie? Does anyone, by the way, remember a film? It takes place in space. And I think it was a sequel, or it was a second film, and in it, the good guy found out that the bad guy was his father. I can't remember for the life of me what film that was. I do know that it was a great comic book, though. What's the name of that movie? Kirby doing me later. In the beginning, I didn't care for it much. They got into Fourth World and Commandy. Yeah, I love that stuff. Well, I don't know if it was on par. Let's see. I remember trying to think. Now, Man of Action. You'll have to. I know. I'm trying to. When did Superman meet? I know. Superman met Commandy in the comics. On Batman: The Brave and the Bold, he met Commandy on that. Was there a cartoon? Did they do that in a cartoon? They may have it. I'm just for Man of Action. If you could let me know. I'm drawing a blank, but I know Commandy was on Batman Brave and the Bold. But this short is done to look just like Kirby. It's a beautiful cartoon. It really is great. Kirby said Dark Seed, so that's good enough for me, Gutstron. But yeah, I'm not saying Lucas took that from the Dark Side. Yeah, I mean, he said Dark Side, by the way. I'm kidding about the Dark Seed thing, but I'm saying that. I'm not so sure that Kirby took that from the start. That Lucas and Lee Brackett and whoever else, Irvin Kershner and others took the whole Luke, I'm your father thing from the Dark Side Orion dynamic. I'm not saying that. Yeah, D-Bod, here's the thing. There have been many people who have said they didn't like Kirby's art when they first saw it. Perfectly fine. If you don't like it now, it's perfectly fine. Not everybody's art is for everyone. Kogi Pan, hey there. But I like what in one of those Kirby documentaries, I forget the exact which one, but Walt Simonson said, "Hey, I loved him from the beginning," and I'm like that. I've always loved this stuff. It's my favorite. But there are people who just aren't that big into it, and that's perfectly okay. Okay, I got you, Man of Action. Cool. Yeah, he was on Command. He was on a couple of episodes of Batman Brave and the Bold. Well, it was a full episode, and he was in two of the teasers. You know those opening teasers they would do before an episode, including a really weird one, an episode called "Joker, the Vile and the Villainous." But yeah. That's a short film. I wish they would put these DC Showcase shorts, more of them on DVD by themselves, because there are a bunch of them that I haven't seen because I don't like any of the DC animated movies anymore. So I missed a bunch of them. I only saw the one on Batman Long Halloween Part 1. I'm going to get the Long Halloween Part 2, just because it's got a Blue Beetle one. But yeah, it is tough to pick a favorite Kirby creation, other than your top 4 or 5, something like that. But hey, that's why we're here, because it's tough. It's tough to pick a favorite. Now, see, his Captain Victory stuff, I bought it because it was Kirby. It wasn't anybody close to my favorite Kirby work. There's just some Commandy right there. Some Commandian, some OMAC. But he was always bursting with ideas, and he always wanted to create things. It's all he cared about was creating things, and this imagination was so amazing. And toward the end of his run at Marvel, before he went to DC around 1970, he was getting tired of having what he felt like having his creators. His creations taken away from him. Take it away from him. So, what do you do? What can you do? He held a lot of it back on his Thor and Fantastic Four run toward the past couple of years. He took him to DC with him. And the thing is, he was only at DC for a number of years, until they kind of started treating him pretty badly. And I think what I will probably do on some future shows here in Jack Kirby Month is, because tonight I was just talking a little bit about some of his creations and all the billions of dollars they've made, and going down the list of them and things like that. No real set plan. I think next Monday night I will probably do a Kirby lists. I think I'll do maybe something along the lines of the Kirby lists, my favorite certain things of Kirby. I'm not sure yet. It'll be something along those lines. And then I'm going to definitely do, since this is a visual format that you can use here on YouTube, the Kirby's visual, look at some of his most crazy art. And here's the thing, a Kirby collage, for example. No one ever would have been crazy enough to attempt a Kirby collage. He did it. And I still don't know if you're all familiar, but that's another thing. That's a Kirby creation, in a sense. Are all you familiar with a Kirby collage? Of course you are. Let's see here. Let's do it. Let's look at a Kirby collage, because that's a Kirby creation. You don't have to take. It'll take that much to. It's truly astounding. Yeah, that was pretty terrible, Phantom Outsider. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they were, man. But this is a Kirby creation. Whoever even tried this in comics? I mean, I don't even know what that is. I just know it's beautiful. And it's so often in the middle of a comic book, and it was really great when it was when it was in a comic book with a superhero. I mean, look at Thor. Look at that. He was magical. Apollo means Minion. Good to see you. When you got a Kirby comic, you got magic every time. I mean, look at that. Astounding work. It just shocks me how few people who, just cannot appreciate this man's unbelievable imagination, or how few people know about him. There'll never be another like him. Never. There'll never be another Jack Kirby. It's just Brendan Haley. Hey there, Brendan. Good to see you. Thank you for popping in. Collage. Whoa. I love those Hunger Dogs collage like this one here. I mean, holy crap. Thank you, Brendan. I appreciate that. Good. Well, I'm just glad you're there, Steve, brother. Always a pleasure, buddy. Hope you're doing well, bud. Let's see here. Always loved this one. A one-pager, but still. A negative zone. What if the negative zone were really that? Like, hey, man, everything sucks here. Yeah. I'm really kind of bummed out, dude. This zone's really kind of negative, dude. Yeah. I don't think everything looks too good right now. Feeling kind of negative about this zone. Me too, man. Negative zone sucks. I'd rather be in the Phantom Zone. It sounds a cooler name than the negative zone. Golly. This negative zone's crappy. And this is not a Kirby, so much a Kirby collage right here. It's just gigantic Kirby splash page. So here's a Kirby collage I always liked, by the way. A one-pager there. What the hell is all that stuff? How did he do that? What did he do that with? How did he do it? I don't want to know how. And if you know how, don't tell me. I'd just rather not know. Fandom Outsider has just blown my mind wide open, buddy. Wow. Imagine Kirby and Ditko doing an alien dimension together. I think with the universe, all of reality would destroy itself. Reality would begin to fold in on itself, and I don't think we would be able to handle it. It would cause probably all of existence. We'd all just turn into Kirby and Ditko drawings, which I wouldn't mind, to be honest. I think I would be okay with that. The most phenomenal thing about all this, to me, is that Kirby wasn't doing drugs. And Ditko wasn't doing drugs either, but he didn't do near what Kirby did. He did some great stuff. I don't know about Alan Moore and some of those other guys. But the stoners love this stuff, of course. The druggies love this stuff. But this guy wasn't doing drugs. But if you showed this to anyone who didn't know anything about comics, they'd say, Jesus, what was that guy on? And it was all imagination. No drugs. Just imagination. It's phenomenal. Oh, had a background problem there. Absolutely astounding stuff. Let's find one of these big collages here. Blow it up. Blow that shit up. As my friend 24 would say. I always love this one here. With Thor. You wonder if they influence each other or Ditko went big, go bigger, or Jack sees his stuff, goes bigger. Who knows? You know, it's probably everyone's influenced by other things and by the works of other people. So yeah, there were probably times when even Jack was influenced by things. Everyone, who creates things is at some point or another. So yeah, Jack was definitely, I'm sure he was definitely influenced. He'd probably tell you, he's talked about us. Everyone, all artists like to talk about their influences, so yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I love this one. Look at that. That's insane. The power of imagination. If only some of the modern owners of our favorite properties could use imagination and not corporate think tanks to plan new stories for our heroes. Amen, Brendan Haley. That would be something, wouldn't it? That'd be amazing. None of them can imagine like Kirby. But they can sure take these characters and strip mine them, suck the life out of them, ruin them. Try to turn them into hollow cash cows. They can do all that. That's for damn sure. But it's a damn shame. I'll tell you what. Since he did have a co-creator, I'm going to be nice tonight. I wish Eric K was here to pick on me about that. Look at this. There's Stan and Jack in the old days. See, being nice to Stan. I'm being nice to Stan now. Throwing him in there. Because, we needed, Stan sold the thing. He was able to sell a lot of that stuff. So there, you like to see Stanley around here in Clobberin time so that often. But you know what? The two worked well together. Tough to say they didn't. First two comics I started buying every month were the Fantastic Four, Kirby, and Where the Creeper Dick. Oh, wow. I guess I had tasted it. You did. But God, that's great stuff, man. Well, and by the way, it's not fair to hold anyone to Kirby standards or even Ditko standards these days, but there's still a lot of creative people that, creative people don't stop existing. It's just that they it's tougher to exploit them the way all those great creators of the golden and the silver and even into the bronze age were exploited and treated so horribly. It's tougher to do that now. I love this one. He didn't do this on a computer, by the way. You couldn't do this on there was no computer to do this on. A lot of these people doing these comics now are doing all this. Imagine that. He did this stuff without computers. There was no computer to use. You couldn't. You can do all kind of crazy crap with computers now, and it's fun and it's cool and all that stuff. This guy didn't do it. He did all this trickery, I'm sure, with photography and stuff like that. But here's the thing: these collages are amazing. I think we're talking about Kirby creations tonight, and they are Kirby creations. I'm not saying he invented the collage. I'm not saying that. I don't know that. I don't think he did. But putting it in the comic books, he was sure probably the first one to do it. But it's not just that. Take a Kirby page that's not a collage, but that is busy. Look how busy his pages are. He also, if he didn't create the big 2-page splash, he certainly revolutionized it. I mean, I don't think he was the first guy ever to do it, maybe, but I can't, say he wasn't either. Talking about a big 2-page Kirby splasher, something along these lines, for example. Let me get to it here. Zickle, zackle, zickle. Where are you? This is, again, this right here. This is just one of many. This came from the imagination of a guy that was not, and I repeat, not doing drugs. Hey, Muslim uncle. How do you know that your Muslim uncle? How do you know that's classified information? That came from a gentleman who was not doing drugs. And I say that facetiously. I'm not, you know how much I love Jack, so I'm not making fun of people who do drugs either. But I'm doing that. I'm just saying that. Look at that machine. I mean, look at Kirby machines are a favorite of mine. And since we're talking about Kirby creations, you got to talk about Kirby machines and splash pages and stuff like that. I mean, my God. Or just busy splashes like this, or shit, I'll do it another way. Look at that. That's a 2-page splash that looks like it has more action and more going on 2 pages with no panels than some artists can do in 15 pages. Or 5 pages. Maybe I should be fair. Oh, we love some Kirby Crackle. By the way, Kirby Crackle's not just a Kirby art piece. There's actually a band that is a bunch of comic book geeks called Kirby Crackle. I ought to try to get them on here. They're cool. I don't know if they're together anymore. They've done some of my favorite comic book geek songs. They played some. I mean, they have some really cool comic book geek songs that they've done. Hey there, Punk Waddle. Welcome back. But who used the 2-page splash better? So this is, it's not just his creations are not limited to his characters. Just it's all these different styles that he used, all these different storytelling techniques that if he either created them or at least revolutionized. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. Let me see here. Oh. And sometimes his work was just plain beautiful. Beautiful. And this is not even in a comic. Look at this Lords of Light stuff they did for Rogers and Lasney right there. Look, it's just amazing. He was just that imagination. And again, I cannot, as I mentioned at the onset of the show tonight, if you want to see a fascinating insight into this extraordinary imagination of this man, Jack Kirby, and how his art was formed by his war experiences, I think it's still on Amazon. It's called Kirby at War. You should really check that out. It's just phenomenal. I love a big, busy Kirby page, too. There's some crackle for you there, D-Bud. Okay, you've seen some Kirby Crackle videos there, Phantom? Cool. They have a great song about the Thing called One of the Guys. I love that one, and I love their Green Lantern song. Kirby Crackle, another Kirby creation, folks. Look at that energy. That page is one gigantic page. It's one complete page, and it moves. It lives. It breathes. That looks like living, moving film almost. It looks animated in a sense. With Kirby. There'll never be another one like him. Won't ever happen again. There will never be another Jack Kirby. Something you were talking about earlier, Phantom, is how Kirby face on the left there for when he was drawing Superman in some of those Forth Worlds books like Jimmy Olsen and Forever People. And DC didn't like him drawing Superman's face, which looks fine to me. So they got people like Kurt Swan, well, actually Murphy Anderson, I'm sorry, a couple other people. Murphy Anderson, maybe it was, I can't remember who else it was. I'm sure you guys can remember. A couple other guys, Nick Hardy maybe, to redraw the face. It was Murphy Anderson was one of them, but there were a couple of other ones. Hey, Arwen, we were talking about you earlier because the guys were putting song lyrics in my from the old Marvel cartoons, and I said, I'm not singing it, but I know Arwen's a wonderful singer. So one night we want you to come on and sing those songs for us. The guys demand it. I'm just kidding. No demands on you. But we would love to have you pop on and hang out with me one of these days and do that. If you are game, we don't want to steal Polly's shtick there with the karaoke, of course, but I could hear you singing that Iron Man theme. Especially that one because it's sung by a lady. And a very high, like a high voice or whatever, and a very lovely voice like yours. So, Arwen, one of these days, we'd love, the guys would love to hear you sing the Iron Man theme. And so, the beautiful Arwen Avalon, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great night, Arwen. Good night and have a wonderful tomorrow. Love you. You take care. Well, thank you, Bride, this day. It's always lovely to see a lady pop in. Let's see here. But there's nothing quite like a busy Kirby page. The dynamism. That is. Not to sound like a negative Nelly, but I honestly believe we would have been better off if they never made a comic book movie after the 80s. Maybe they would have never noticed us. Well, you know what, Pat? I don't know, man. I think comics might have been better off. You're right. They wouldn't be as big, but I don't know. They'd still have to compete with things like video games and stuff like that. But, buddy, I don't know. It's an interesting idea, though. We definitely always better off without Hollywood screwing around with our with our creations, with the things we love. I know that much. By the way, everyone, have a gander at Kirby with Cap's shield. You could well be right, Pat S. Dude. After 1980, huh? At least that leaves us the Christopher Superman. So I'm open to it. But yeah, buddy, I'll tell you. But there have been some good ones. There have been ones I like, of course. But no, I do hear you, brother. Or as they would say, I hear you on FM, bud. Now I can't get. Thanks a lot, whoever put the Iron Man theme. Now I can't get it out of my head. Thank you. Why did you do that to me? Oh my God! I'm hearing the freaking Iron Man theme going off of my skull. Oh, Jesus. Tony Stark makes you feel he's a cool exec with a heart of steel. As Iron Man, all jets ablaze, he fights and fights with repulsor rays. You deserve that. You deserve getting that one right in the face. How about a little Kirby inked by Barry Windsor-Smith? I love this mag. That's the great Barry Windsor-Smith inking Kirby. You know, when Barry Windsor-Smith came into the business, he was Barry Smith. He was coming from across the pond, and his style, he was just aping Kirby. Because everyone was told at that point, you know, especially because he was coming in when Jack was kind of coming close to being leaving, he was coming in there and they would say, draw like Jack. I mean, that was what they were saying to every artist. Other than Ditko, draw like Jack, draw like Jack, draw like Jack, draw like Jack. Obviously. And some of them got similar. Obviously, they didn't look exactly like him or anything. And none of them were fast. Kirby was fast, folks. I mean, he was prolific to a fault. That's why by the time I finally met him in the 80s, his hands and his hand and his arm was really bad off. If I had to pick a favorite Kirby splash page of all time, it's got to be it right here. Number 51. This monster. You know, this is when I met Jack Kirby, I got him to sign my this splash page on my Fantastic Four number 51. Still have it somewhere. It's buried. I need to go pull it out and drag it out of here. Pugwaddle, the thing about the comic book movies around the turn of the century was people were so happy to see the technology show their heroes. They didn't push back when the stories deviated some. That is an astute observation, Pugwaddle. I mean, in other words, I was one of those ones that every time I would say the slightest thing about, well, they got this wrong or they got that wrong, and they go, oh, quit bitching. It can't be exactly like the comic. Okay. I'm not looking for exact, but the closer you get, the more I'm going to be on your side. I'll tell you that much. But I understand they have to make some changes. But yeah, see, that's a good point there, Punkwaddle, because it is. There's something irresistible about the being able to see these characters with the modern effects and all the fantastic things you can do with them. You know, when that first Avengers film from 2012, when we got to see superheroes. Now, they weren't fighting supervillains, but they were fighting an army of thingies, the Jatari. But still, they were fighting. I mean, they were superheroes fighting things. Superheroes, man, with powers and everything. It was pretty amazing. Yeah. Whoever did that to me with the Iron Man theme. Damn you. I was a normie, I won't lie, but I didn't get upset when the purists explained the differences. The difference. Like we accept that movies aren't the same as the book it's based on. Yeah, well, it just depends on how much you're willing to put up with in terms of a change. If you see where I'm coming from, it just depends on how much you're willing to put up with on that, I suppose. But there's some Kirby Thunder for you from their Man of Action that you were mentioning earlier. Like I said, I love Thundar, man, and I can't wait to go deep dive on it and watch it again. But it was basically Commandy. And again, they did a great job on the animation on that Commandy short, too, making it look pure Kirby-ish, very Kirby-ish anyway, especially that opening. Yeah, so. But again, the imagination that Kirby showed, it's kind of funny because when he created Commandy, obviously you could certainly say, wow, what did you do, Jack? Did you watch Planet of the Apes? And Planet of the Apes, one of my all-time favorite films from 1968, had been out for many years. And Jack had said he'd never seen it, I think. And you know what? I believe him. Not just because he's Jack. But partially because he's Jack. But there's a lot of Planet of the Apes there. Yeah, well, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief for these crazy things. Yeah. But that short started out with an homage to the cover here, Commandy #1. And wow, yeah, that kind of won me over right there. And it was short because it was a short. That's what it was. But it was really cool. I really think that they captured the essence of Kirby and the Commandy comic. So I loved it. Let's see here. Those Ruby Spears, I mean, it's amazing. It's a shame we didn't get all those other Ruby Spears creations. But, man, what are you going to do? Kirby, I remember he created, even toward the end of his career when he couldn't really, and you could argue he couldn't draw much even in the 80s. He could, his arm was just really messed up, but he designed, not only did he do all that stuff for Ruby Spears, none of which got made other than Thundar. DC at least tried to help him a little bit. That's because they screwed him over earlier, but Jeanette Kahn, who I have problems with, nicely called him in and let him design the Superpowers figures. And so here you have Jack Kirby. Now, again, these are characters that most of them he'd never had much to do with because there were a lot of these DC characters. But still, he created this wonderful, vibrant line of these superheroes. And the comics, of course, they based comics off of them, but Kirby, he didn't create any of these characters, but they had him do the comics based on those characters. And it's just like, wow, just to see that crazy, very toward the end of his career, Kirby style for the DC heroes was just so was just kind of fun to see that in that crazy, really at this point, man, Kirby's arm was really, it was tough for him to draw a lot of the stuff. And his style had really morphed into even a more cartoony type of what they've been called blocky style. But he finally got to draw Superman. There you go. That's exactly right, Phantom Outsider. And so as much as I rag on DC, because they deserve it, little things he's done, some of the good people that work there did allow him, at least to have some kind of something to do in the 80s, and it was some income, because that was when they were having, I don't know if any of you, and I think I probably would be doing a show about this. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Jack Kirby's original art controversy, the big, what Marvel tried to do to Kirby in the 80s. But that was around this time when they were holding a lot of his original art hostage. And you know what? Kirby's not the ideal Batman artist, but to get to see him do Batman, just to get to see him do it, what the hell? Yeah. That Superpowers Galactic Guardians, what Super Friends cartoon turned into, that was a really good cartoon, by the way. You better believe I was at all these when they came out. Yeah, that's right. Darkseid. Darkseid was the main villain there. So even though he didn't create, well, he didn't create really any of these characters. Just to see him get to put his perspective, his mark on them a little bit. And that toy line was huge then. Another example of, in this case, not his creations, but you're just great to getting him to get a crack at legendary characters. Just to see it just to say, because he was so either identified with Marvel and all the other things he's done, to see him get a crack at the DC ones. It's kind of nice that he got to do that, because he's a king of comics. So the fact that he got to just mess with those characters a little bit, yes, it was a kiddie comic to sell kid toys, but so what? It was kind of fun. It was kind of fun to see that, I thought. And it was good for Jack. Now, an obscure, I want to see I want to see if any of you old guys here, if you know who you are, ever got this magazine. Kirby was just so far outside the mainstream. It'd be so mainstream, and yet he could be so far outside it, I should say. These two magazines he did for this, Hampshire Distributors, whatever the hell they were. You could find these everywhere for a while. Now, a Commanding Earth theme world map might be one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Now I want to read it. I'll find that map and put it up here. Yeah, it's never been the same in the mining industry since kids can't lead ponies through the tunnels. Jeez. I hear you there. D-Bud, remember this one, dude? D-Bud Phantom Outsider. Did you guys ever get this? In the Days of the Mob. I think that might be a British version of the cover of just that I pulled up. He did that one. This was in the early 70s. Like I said, again, it's Kirby. He wasn't always doing superheroes. Superheroes weren't the only thing he did. Yeah, I mean, I'm a superhero geek, but, just kind of the fact that he would do something like this. And then for the same publisher, I believe, do this one. Let me pull that up. See if anyone knows it. Yeah, this was called In the Days of the Mob. And I don't know why it has 15p on there. This was, and maybe somebody stuck that on there. It was done from, it was an American mag. And this was early 70s. They've since done some publications where they like reprinted a little hardcover version. But with magazine, it was just him doing it again. And this was not reprint stuff. It was new material. And I think I still have it somewhere. And at the same time, what about this one? This is actually a sort of a Neil Adams cover to it, but it's all Kirby inside Spirit World. 50-cent in black and white magazine. So have you seen Spirit World? Gojatron, there you go. Yes, they have a hardcover of In the Days of the Mob, and I think they have a hardcover of Spirit World. Yep, Kirby stuff right here. Again, I know it has a Neil Adams cover, but it's Kirby. And I think they did like I said, Gojatron, I think they did a hardcover of this one as well. Just a couple of years back. It's crazy. This like obscure out of nowhere thing, and just did it. Oh, you got that hardcover as well? Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, it was Hampshire. I forget the publisher. They weren't around long. Some little fly-by-night publisher, not Warren or anything like that. So yeah, the publisher. I don't know what else they ever did. I'm sure they did something probably, but yeah, I don't know that. I don't really know anything about that publisher either, D-Bud. Crazy stuff, but that's some Kirby Obscura there for you. And I never got those hardcovers. A friend of mine got them. I think he got them, but he has the originals. I think I had Spirit World and never found. Now that I think about it, I don't think I had In the Days of the Mob. But I think I found Spirit World. I have it. I'm pretty sure I still have Spirit World somewhere. Anyway, weird stuff, huh? As I said, weird, wild stuff. And now, for some more Kirby weirdness. Again, it's one piece. It's not even a comic book panel. It was done for that Lords of Light Rogers Zelazny deal, I believe. A few years, a good number of years ago now, Heavy Metal did a special Kirby edition with all that stuff. I managed to pick up. Oh, I forgot exactly where I found it. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'll save for a separate night to do. I might do favorite Kirby covers, but that would be impossible. That's ridiculous because there's so many great covers. This, by the way, one of you mentioned earlier, I think was it you, D-Bud, or Phantom? I'm not sure. Mentioned this amazing book, which I was able to pick up, Kirby's Prisoner, that was never released. That he did for Marvel. There's actually some Gil Kane in there as well. When he adapted the first episode of the great show, The Prisoner. Mark, I can neither confirm or deny, but I don't think he did. But I think he didn't need it. But I hear you. I don't think he ever did any LDS, buddy. You know what's talking about this. LDS. I don't think so, man. But what do I know? Maybe he did. I'm just really, really going out on a limb speaking for Jack when I shouldn't speak for Jack. Maybe he did. I'm kidding, Jack. You know I love you. I know you didn't. That's the thing. It would be easy to fall back on that. You go, yeah, well, he did a lot of drugs. But he didn't. I love this book. This man, look, Kirby Prisoner, mind blown. Yep, I had to get. I don't have a lot of artist editions, of course, because they're expensive. But I had to have this one. You were number 6. You were number Kirby. Pat S., did you say black light? You didn't just say black light, did you? Well, if you want some black light, well, I think we could oblige you, sir. You said I could hit it with a black light. Does anyone remember the Marvel black light posters? Oops, let's see. I have to find the one I was looking for. Sorry. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Dang it. I was looking for, there you go. There you are. All right. You talk about a Kirby black light poster. How about that one, baby? There was no limit to this, man. There was no limit to him. He could create Super HDJ. Hey there. Good to see you. Just phenomenal. I wish I could say I had these black light posters. I didn't. I've seen them, of course. And now I know they're probably worth a good bit. That's amazing, though. Oh, that's wow, Deba. That's your first one? Wow, dude. Great one. FF76, buddy. Used to have it. Wish I still did, but I'm an idiot. Early Kirby right there, folks. Much cruder than his later stuff. But blown up like that looks kind of cool from FF4. A classic beyond classics. You know, almost as important as FF number 1 in terms of, just the cover alone, is the cover of FF number 3. And I know you all know why. Yeah. Yes. Imagine looking at that poster on LDS. We'll never know. Unless you got some. Yada yada. Yeah, this one here, man, look. His style was cruder back then. It was still great. Who inked that cover? Dick Ayers or somebody like that? I don't know. George Russo's. I don't know who linked it, but definitely Kirby's most important creation is the FFs. There's no question about it in my mind. But good God, Cap's not far behind. Avengers, you know. The page moves when a Kirby page moves. Stan Lee invented himself. Stan Lee invented himself. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let you get me there, Mark D. Yes, sir. Very crude early style. Look at the thing. Mark D with the C. That's your version of the thing right there. Did I think you should cosplay that one? That's what you should do, man. Oh, my goodness. Let's see what Jack would say about this. That's a look at the action on that one pinup he did there, right there. Look at the. I mean, it's action. It's an action sequence. He doesn't even need panels to convey action. It just jumps off the damn paper. It jumps off the page, the Kirby page, man. So yeah, I think I might do, but it can't be 25. I'm sorry, it's just not possible. Yeah, I can't. It can't be 25. No way. I'm gonna do 50 covers when I do the Kirby covers show. We'll go through every one of them. Now, was he on drugs when he did 2001: A Space Odyssey? I don't know. Well, everyone, I've kept you here tonight. I didn't really have a lot of material because I didn't get a chance to study for it. So I'm sorry I bored the hell out of you guys. But I did talk early on about Kirby's creations. They are potent. They are powerful. They are magnificent. As I titled this show, you know, the Kirby creations, or $1 Billion King, you know, creations of the king. I don't know if it's humanly possible to calculate how many billions of dollars. I know. I think Phantom was talking a little bit about it though. There, how many billions of dollars that the characters created, and the characters and concepts and everything created by Jack King Kirby, King Comics, have added up to. I don't know if you could do it. I'm sure. It could be done. What am I saying? Anything could be done. But it should be. That's why at the beginning of the show I read off all those characters that he created and are co-created. Because it's important. Not enough people know, and not enough people will ever know. People know Stan. I'm not beating up on Stan. Just saying, people know Stan. I guess because he run around saying a lot of things that he created this all by himself and all this stuff. Then he did all his cameos. And if Jack were alive, had lived as long as Stan, Still don't think they would have let him do all the cameos. But they should at least put something. And there have been Kirby homages in some of the films, the MCU and others. It happens once in a while. It should be in every damn film. It would have been easy to do, but these idiots know. And now that Stan is gone, rest his soul, they'll find some way to. I guarantee you, they will find some. I guarantee you, they will find a way to homage him now that he can't do a cameo. Kirby, yeah, he'll get mentioned sometimes. Even though that Taika Waititi guy is a jackass, in that Thor Ragnarok, which have some problems with here and there, they had some Kirby art in the background. He did a little bit of an homage to Kirby. In the it's happened once in a while here and there. It should be in every damn film. At least Kirby fans would get it. But no, that's just not the way it's going to be. So someone's got to, this is Jack Kirby month. And I know I didn't do a good job of really selling anything because I was just trying to say some things and say that this man's unbelievable imagination has brought us so much. Matthew Pounder, hey there. Kirby Plaza. I remember that. No, maybe I don't. Heroes? Oh, I hated Heroes, but yeah, I think maybe I do remember. Bad memory. But there you go. Thank you, Matt Pounder. But for the most part, people who've never read comics know who Stan Lee is. And on the other hand, people who have read comics don't know who Jack Kirby is. It ain't right. It's not right. He never got to see pretty much anything of barely a dime of the billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. I'm not just talking about movies either. I mean, it's incalculable. But they came from mostly from one imagination. Like I said, he did co-create things with Joe Simon and Stan Lee. But without Kirby there, these things don't happen. And I've argued that when it comes to Marvel, yes, without it being Stan and Jack, Marvel doesn't happen. The combo is needed for certain things here and there. But Stan was leaving the business, okay? Stan was tired of comics, was going nowhere. If this last thing didn't help, he and his wife were talking about it. He was going to go to work in the magazine business. He wanted to write a book. He was sick of comics. So let's say that they don't get together and Stan goes and does that and goes off into obscurity and no one ever knows who he is. And that's pretty much what would have happened. Now, the comic industry might have been very different, but Jack would have thrived in it. Would it have been as popular as what happened with Marvel Comics? Maybe not. Maybe so, but maybe not. We'll never know. Unless there's some alternate universe we can look into somewhere. Where Stan made a different decision, and Martin Goodman made a different decision, and Jack made a different decision. Steve Ditko made a different. But one thing we do is there would still been comics at some point, and Jack Kirby would have still worked in comics probably. Ditko might have even still worked. I mean, he could have done other types of art, but the fact is, DC or anyone else would have hired him up. Someone would have snapped him up with all those ideas and all those writing. They might have still screwed him over because they did screw him over later. DC did. Until they did nice things for him in the 80s. But the whole point of that is Jack would have still been Jack. He still would have been as creative. His art still would have been great. Things would have been different. You wouldn't have had all these characters looking the same. You'd still have a lot of great creations probably and a lot of great work from Jack. I do believe that it's still, again, certainly there would have been differences. Not saying there wouldn't. But Jack would still be at least a well-known comic book artist to comic book geeks anyway. Stan would have gone the way of so many people from the golden age that no one has ever heard of unless you pick up a copy of Roy Thomas's great magazine Alter Ego, which I guess would still exist. Very few people would have remembered him without his collaborations with Jack, and then to an extent Steve Ditko. Whereas again, would Kirby be as famous? I don't know, but he still would have worked in comics for a long time. I don't think that could be disputed. And yet, nobody knows who he is, and he's created so much. Jakob Kurtzberg, folks. August 28th, 1917. A good 20-something years later, naming himself Jack Kirby, became the king of comics, the most potent imagination of the 20th century, and it's not even close. The creator of so much, co-creator and creator so much, and a magnificent, brilliant storyteller, fantastic artist, and of course a great war hero, an even better person than he was an artist, because he was, he served this country, served freedom. A wonderful man that was very friendly, and he and his wonderful wife Roz had a big, nice family. Led a tough life, but a good life, and changed so much in terms of the lives of so many people. He inspired so many young people who read comics, that were inspired to go be creative in other, not always in comics, in other endeavors. Hey there, pop culture archivist. He inspired so many people. And he won't be forgotten by many of us. There are people who've enjoyed his creations and don't even know who he is, and probably never know who he is. He'll live on forever. I mean, his creations will live on past all of us. And never saw a dime of not even a molecule of what was made of all the money he created for so many other people. And that's a shame. He made his mistakes like anyone else when it comes to, creators' rights and things like that. Changed the industry, revolutionized it 2 or 3 times, revolutionized the art form a couple of times. Without him, I'll leave you with, and I've talked about, I've said this before, the second time I got to go meet and hang out with Jack Kirby, there was an award ceremony that he was emceeing or he was part of or whatever, and this was in Atlanta in 1990. And the great Julius Schwartz there, famous editor, science fiction agent before that, editor later, of course, introduced Jack Kirby on the stage. He did it this way. He said, I'll never forget it, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created Superman. Bob Kane and Bill Finger created Batman. Then he said, and Jack Kirby did everything else. Now, that's always stuck with me. But I'll tell you that Jack Kirby was the kind of guy that would, if he would come out there and say, and he didn't because he was being humble. He said, well, there were a lot of other people that did do a lot of other things. And it's true, he didn't create every single thing, but he did everything else in the sense that his work meant more. His imagination meant more. His creations meant more. Hey there, Glinzer. Glinzer, good to see you. That's absolutely a very nice thing you just said there that I have to highlight. Money loses value. Kirby's legacy is priceless. Thank you so much for that. It's good to see you. Good to meet you. Yeah, what Jack did, again, at least now his family sees a little bit of it. And I know Jack would at least like that, and that's a shame. But, as kids say, it is what it is. Not much you can do. But he did so much. He gave us so much. And as I said before, I reiterate, he didn't just inspire people to draw or write comics. There's so many people in so many fields, and that's something we can go into at another time, that would tell you that, yeah, they grew up. Obviously, they knew him from comics, But they read his comics, and it made them want to write novels. It made them want to be painters. It made some of them go into music, become musicians. And yes, many became comic book writers and comic book artists as well. But there are a lot of stories of people from other mediums, again, like music, like prose fiction, like a painting, what have you, that would say that their big inspiration was Jack Kirby, even though these were just silly comic book characters to most people. It wasn't silly to Jack. Jack believed in him. Jack created things all the time. He was creating. His imagination was so in overdrive all the time. He was creating all the time. That's why I named the show tonight Billion Dollar King, because he's the king of comics, and the creations of Jack Kirby. And yes, a lot of them are co-creations. Because he was always creating something. He almost was never just drawing a page. Yeah, there were times he worked from scripts for other writers. There were times he worked on comics where he wasn't the main writer. A lot of times where he was credited as such or did other things, that he did art. But he was always creating. He was not just drawing something. Again, I said earlier tonight, there's so many fantastic artists that we love. We just love their work. We see oh, that's a Gil Kane. That's a Neil Adams. Oh, my God, look at that. That's a Marshall Rogers. That's a Jim Starlin. Whoever we're talking about, great artist. Jack, but we think of their art first. When I think of Jack, I don't do that. Yes, I love his art. It just happens to be my personal favorite. When I think of Jack, I think of creations. Good night, Chris Persia. I'm right behind you, man. We're about to head out. But thank you so much, Chris Persia, for being here. And thank you all for being here. So when I think of Kirby, that's why tonight's show was about. Happy birthday, Kirby, here in Kirby month. When I think of Kirby, I think of creations as much as I think of art and his visual work. So thank you all for being here tonight, everyone. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow night I'll be on Loki's Comic Roundtable over on Fat Stevens Show. That's 7 p.m. Central. Wednesday night I'll do something. And Thursday night, like I said, Thursday, I don't know if there's going to be a Global Geek Gang show or not. I'm not sure yet. But there may not be one. But everyone just remember, Saturday night, of course, been having a wonderful time with Saturday Night Star Trek, and we will have a wonderful time then. And then Sunday, celebration of the Fantastic Four's 60th anniversary. Released to the day, 1961, August 8th. So August 8th, 2021, I will gather a gang of global geeks. Or maybe I'll just do it all myself. I don't know yet. Just kidding. But anyway, we shall gather our global geeks and we shall celebrate the Fantastic Four. Gojatron, thank you. Appreciate you. Plump Lotto, Mark D with a C. I don't know what the one is there for, but I'm putting it there too. We are part of it. Chris Persia, Phantom Outsider, D-Bud, Pat S., Pop Culture Activist, My Pounder, Glinzer. Glinzer, again, that's a new one here. Good to see you, Glinzer. All of our friends who were here earlier, again, Matthew Pounder, Punk Waddle, the great Steve Mitchum, your Muslim uncle, Brendan Haley, that 70s rock fan, Phantom Outsider, Buddy, Mark D with a C, Buddy. The wonderful Arwen Avalon, who was here earlier. If I miss anyone, it's because my chat does not go that far back. Monkey Jeebus, hello there. We're just heading out. But thank you all. I want you to have a wonderful night. I really appreciate you hanging out with me. And I will see you again on the streams here. This is just the beginning of Jack Kirby month. I promise my next Jack Kirby show to be more organized. That'll be next Monday, of course, and it'll be something. I'm not sure what it will be, but it will be something. So thank you so much. And as always, a great shout out to the amazing Stone Loki for my wonderful intro outro that he made for me. Hail to the king, everyone. Good night.